Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to season 33 of Beyond the Ordinary Show, y'all. It's been 11 years and counting. And our next guest is someone who I've known just about as long and who's become a dear friend and now a collaborator, which I'm excited to tell you more about what we're creating together in this moment. Um, but also, I'm excited because she is so adept at bringing in the energy of what we're expanding and growing into, an awareness that really helps to facilitate our own individual journey and the collective journey by opening up with an understanding that then gives an avenue for compassion, for generosity, and first just for the exaltation of the wisdom that we have within us that knows that everything's going to be okay. But something else runs in the background, and Jamie just brings this information in such a beautiful, grounded, but very expansive way as well. So again, it's going to be an amazing call today. We're going to open up to Q&A. Y'all can ask um, your own personal questions. Um, but I want you guys to know a little bit more about Jamie. So let's start with a little background information because the words that I have aren't enough to truly describe this amazing channel that Jamie Price is. And so with that, Jamie, welcome. It's good to have you on here.
Thank
Excited.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Excited.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Sorry. Excited
Yeah.
about what's going to be shared, truly. And I wish we can go ahead and start with if you give a little bit of background of how it is that you're transmitting and teaching for other people.
Nice. Nice. Well, I always like to start with I was not a psychic child, just so everyone is aware that there's all kinds of different paths and the way that we open up is perfect for our own path, the timing and all of that as well. And I started having psychic flashes when I was um, well, it was around 1987, so while I was 17. Um, and the way that they started coming was slow, but it would come in ways eventually that were something that could be proven. And that helped me understand my psychic senses in a really concrete way because they were so nebulous to me. I didn't have training for it, I didn't have experience with it. And so there just wasn't a lot of context for me. And that grew over time. And I was originally very clairaudient, somewhat clairvoyant, but mostly clairaudient and clairsentient. But the unfolding of that was really like a conversation with my guides, and that's how it started becoming more conscious to me. Was they were teaching me things, and in the beginning it was odd because I kind of thought it was more like a daydream or something, but then it made sense over time.
Mm.
So I've had that relationship with my guides since I became aware of them, which gradually started in my later 20s and 30s as that psychic opening was increasing over a decade plus. And that to me was a really important context for how I approached all of this because it felt so natural and personal, and yet it was very instructive. And to me, that always made sense because our spiritual journey is about discovering the things that are natural to us and learning to work with the energetic aspect that we all are, which Ariane, the Lyran Council of Time that I channel, calls the 99.999, the 99% part of us, the vast part of us. So that unfolded over a span of years, and I started having some natural ways of healing happening, from healing myself when I was getting a cold or a flu, healing my friends and family stealthily with some of that same imagery and the impulses that I was taught through. And then eventually that transpired into me becoming obsessed with healing and working on other people. And they would teach me as I was working on others. And as that light language was starting to open up after I had had an axiotonal alignment, along with that, that whole time they had been creating the crystalline soul healing template that is a silent modality. It's separate from light language. And with all of that, they were training me in the whole context of healing and working with our energy. So that has fascinated me over all of these years. And what began as me working on myself and just having some of those experiences became something that was just always at the forefront of my life. Everything that I was doing was centered around that spiritual opening. And then eventually I was channeling, and I started teaching light language to others. I was teaching crystalline soul healing to others back in LA. Then I stopped that for a while to focus on light language, and then began teaching that again in 2015 or 16. And so all of that has been coming a lot more to the forefront. So that's my journey of opening over a span of many decades. And it's been over a decade now, or about a decade since we've known each other, and a couple of decades that I've been doing light language publicly, and even longer than that, teaching others and healing others.
Well, first I have to say your light language there's such an integrity to what you transmit, and it's so grounded. And again, my first experience with you was just mind-blowing. It's like I could almost understand every word that you were transmitting, but it was a resonance, a cohesion, and it blew my mind open. But again, I can feel just, for me, a purity of intention and of intelligence that's running through you, and it's second to none. I mean, that's so much respect for the work that you do and how you share it. I want to ask you, what has been your impression of how these modalities of this capacity that you have has impacted people that work with you?
Mm. So the over all of these years of working with this has been the thing that's been most fulfilling, because it it changed my life. And then to see when I'm working on others, or especially what's most exciting is when students go through class and immediately they're working on people and they're seeing those differences.
Mm,
So that to me is the most important part, because it's this whole journey that we're going through is all about the individuals becoming empowered and learning to work with their own energy and follow their intuition and follow their joy. And so that's what's been most impactful for me, to see those deep but subtle changes that people make and have, because the energy healing is shifting them, or the light language is shifting them on such deep levels. So it's truly the teaching and watching the students immediately have such amazing transformations in themselves, and then with others as they're working on them, because that to me is where it's so fresh, where you get to see that feedback of that intention and that energy flow having an impact on someone, whether it's emotional healing, physical healing, the things that are changing in their situations. It works on everything, so the impacts themselves are just varied overall.
mhm. Part of what you also do just so expertly, and thank goodness for you. I watch them all the time, your monthly transmissions or messages that you put from the Lyran Council. But you help us navigate different energetic trends, if you will. For example, this last eclipse portal that ended in May, that was a big transition. And the awareness that you were sharing was outside the fringe of the normal. There wasn't like, it's like, oh, it's just this, and then we're moving on to the next thing. Um, I'd love it if you share some of your awareness of, again, this wave that we're currently in, that perhaps maybe even started a little bit before that eclipse portal, and where you see it heading.
Yeah, yeah. All the eclipses are powerful, but some of them stand out a little more than others in different ways. And this one particularly stood out more than others in the way that it felt even more connected to the full series that's happening in this year.
Mm,
So when the two eclipses happened in March and April, the the information that was coming with those just felt so interconnected. And there was two main things that I had heard about those eclipses, and that was return of the dove and turning back the clocks. And I had this sense that it was as pivotal as it felt in 2017 when there was another eclipse series that Ariane talked about, because they don't talk about them all the time. They don't, they don't bring up information directly about them all the time. And they did in 2017 and said polarization is going to increase even among light workers. And then with this one, it was Return of the Dove and Turning Back the Clocks. So Turning Back the Clocks and the Return of the Dove, when I heard that Return of the Dove, I thought of the Keys of Enoch, because I remembered that there's that picture in there of the Return of the Dove. And when I went and looked at it, the whole area of the dove, which is over North America, is it's almost exactly like the eclipse path. And that, from where it entered and where it exited, that to me was a big reinforcement, a validation that there was something that was really profound about this time. And the eclipses just concentrate an energy of reset, frankly, but they concentrate an energy where what we're already going through collectively just kind of intensifies because of those eclipses. And yet it gives this still point or this 0 point energy where we have that capability to reset or hold and anchor in a new energy. And that Return of the Dove and Turning Back the Clocks was what was so pivotal at that time.
Mhm.
Now, when I went into the Keys of Enoch, there was so much about the pyramids and Giza and our Merkaba, and how the when those are aligned properly with the grid system, that our own internal system or our subtle bodies become more aligned as well. And I don't feel like this is a process that just started at this eclipse by any means, but it's intensifying at this time. There's that reset point that was occurring. And it's very connected into the next eclipse series, because when they were first giving me the energies for 2024, and they just happened to give me like almost all of them. I think they gave me all of them, and I had some question marks, or I've scribbled some other notes, but from that time, they gave me all of the energies of 2024, which they've never done that before. And that was back in 23. So like, for instance, right now, I don't even know what the 25 energies are. There's just nothing. So when they originally did that, I could feel that October eclipse series was really strong. So when this first one happened in March and April, and I got that information about Return of the Dove and Turning Back the Clocks, I knew it was connected in. And then going to the Keys of Enoch just really reinforced that with how the alignments are changing, because even pyramids, they are a strong concentrator of energy flow, and they are the strongest physical form that we have here. And that represents that the Merkaba with the spinning vortices that is shown as two triangles, but it's a physical representation of the strength of that foundation that really moves energy in a very concentrated way.
What does this mean for us as individuals and as a collective as these energies are moving?
Yeah. So for us as individuals, this time it's like the time that we've been preparing for,
Mm.
even more than normal. Like, it's just so intensified. So on an individual level, it is about that concentration of energy and really utilizing your energy flow and utilizing your intention, your focus. And sometimes that intention and focus needs to be rest and play and nurturing. It doesn't all have to be, I got to light work this world better. We're not here to fix it. We're here to be the embodiment of the natural power that we are. So that this time personally is about really aligning that energy within yourself so that you are moving with the natural flow. You're moving with the natural flow of time more easily, because otherwise we are, and this is how our Western civilizations are, and I am a recovering type A personality, still in recovery.
And
Yes, that to not just keep the bustle going, but to let the energy show you when it's time, when it's ripe. And turning back the clocks is about really anchoring in our full birthright, our full capability that has always been there. And we have many physical representations of that, Giza being one of them, Egypt being one of them, the pyramids on Giza or Egypt broadly, but this is all over the world. Those are just the physical reminders for us of the capabilities that are natural to us.
it's fascinating what's presenting itself and illuminating. It's what's awakening something in us to look at things differently. And for me, last year, even the last 18 months, well, 18 months ago, there was a big period of kind of being in that middle space, knowing that we had completed something, and and it was a little confusing, not knowing what we're moving forward into, knowing that things were still being reorganized. And I feel that momentum again of the energy that you're talking about. Also, it's there's like a refinement that's prepared us for the newness, I want to call it, of how we're creating and how we're being with one another, of how we're also in relationship to the cosmic energies and guides that are ready to communicate with us in ways that perhaps we weren't prepared for,
Yeah.
or wired for. So it's quite spectacular.
Mhm.
Last September, I was in Sedona speaking at a conference, and we got together for brunch. And as you talk about Giza, I've been sharing, some of y'all that are on the membership know this story because I've shared it with you, or you've already had interviews with me about this event. You've heard some of it. But there was something that ignited in being with you in Sedona at this brunch as we were sharing our individual experiences of being in Egypt together. And again, you're talking about Giza, but from that brunch, I knew it's like, we've got to be there. We've got to be there soon. But I love when we backtrack a little bit, and I'd love to hear your version of my story, um, of how there's a resurrection energy that's coming in from there, and more. There's a resurrection and more, and it's not quite clear to me yet, but it's still refining. But what sparked in you when we had that conversation about Egypt?
Yeah. So you and I always meet up whenever you're in Sedona, which happens, sometimes it's every couple of years, sometimes it's once a year or so. But we've been saying for a while, I feel like Egypt is calling, but it's not yet time. And so this time when we were having brunch and we were talking about that, I was sharing some of that story about the goddess temple, which I'll go through in just a moment. But that really felt like it congealed this feeling in us that was like, I think it's time. I think it's time. It's coming soon. And we didn't know exactly when. We didn't know exactly how we were going to do that. Was it just going to be a small trip, or what we were going to do? But that was very different from when we had talked about it before. Like, oh, I feel like it's time to go back. But I mean, I feel like I want to go back, but it's not yet time. So that really shifted things. But then at the end of the brunch, when we were all about to leave, that beetle dropped from the umbrella, and we were just looking at it going, oh my gosh, that is such a wild synchronicity, especially after we had all been sitting there for hours
Yeah.
talking, that it didn't shake loose at any point during that, but it fell right as we were just about to leave. And as soon as that hit the table and we were all just kind of looking at it stunned, the message that I heard was, make sure that it happens, that you go. And that's it was such an important message for me because it would be easy to go, oh, okay, well, sometime. And then as a little bit of time went by and then we reconnected about timing and stuff, I had been feeling like September was the time. And then I had remembered that I had written down all of the 24 energies. And I had written Egypt, Akhenaten at some point there. And I went and looked, and it was actually October, but September's energies have an Egyptian connection as well. It's preparing the body. And that September energy feeds into October, which is where I wrote Egypt, Akhenaten.
Mm.
And then as I talked to you, I hadn't said anything about that. The first thing that you said was, I'm feeling September.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
So the synchronicities just kept flowing like that. And it's definitely a profound energy to connect with. And we connect with it etherically. We connect with it in person when we go. But all of that, it has such a strong memory and such a strong key for all of us. It's the bridge from Atlantean memories, and it holds a lot of physical experience for so many of us because of past lifetimes there, and things that are connected into the earth Akash and our own DNA.
Yeah, it's powerful. And again, the confirmation of September before we spoke, after we met again after a few weeks, I'd been sitting with my guides, just like, why are we going? How are we going? What's the purpose of this? We can do this remotely. There's so many other ways to do this. It's like, you're supposed to be there and you're going in September. It's like, and that just felt right. And you hadn't traveled in a while. Um, and I had just been to Egypt a couple of years before. So I was like, why am I going back? But it was so clear. It landed so clearly. And then the whole, and y'all, we're going to share more about the trip in a little bit because we want to invite you all as part of the audience to apply to see if it's right for you to join us. And I know this community, and I can't wait for more applications to come in. But the way that it's all fallen so effortlessly in the flow of really a trip that, after having so many meetings with you and the other luminaries, as we're calling them, which there's 5 of us total, the energy that is emitted when we get on those calls together, it's quite profound. What's your experience of what's coming through when we're in that field?
It's so interesting because we had so many of the meetings without the other luminaries, and then when the 5 of us were together, it was such a profound experience of the cohesiveness and the power and the individuality. It was just really beautiful. Like, each person having such a unique energy and connection of their own with Egypt and the purpose. And yet the group energy was such an easy flow and so strong. It was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It's, for me, it's so on this journey. And again, we're going to go to the website a little bit, y'all. Actually, April, put the link in the chat box. If any one of y'all want to go ahead and start browsing through it, please do so. It's amazing. The page by itself is a transmission. I mean, people are calling me, I'm crying when I'm reading this. Something's activating. I know I have to go, but it's there in the chat box, y'all. If you can't find it for whatever reason, you can just open up a new window and type in beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Egypt, and it'll take you to that same page. But yeah, when I was talking to some of the other luminaries, and they were expressing what was coming through them and the enthusiasm, it's, again, we have Meg Benedicte, who's an amazing channel. She works with Metatron's Cube, and it's really about clearing it out and amplifying into a new space of creating from what you shared with me yesterday, is this place of a golden triangle. It's really the higher state, leaving behind the density of the thoughts and the old programs that don't serve. We have Stuart Pearce, who's an emissary of the Angelics of Atlantis, and so much more. And he's just so full of stories and so much wisdom about Egypt. I think he's been guiding their people for 10 years, at least twice every year, or has it been 20 years twice? I
It's
forget.
been much longer than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, he's an encyclopedia of just information about Egypt. But with Stuart also, it's just he could read a phone book and you're just like, you can't stop listening. And when we get together, there's just like this playful, abundant field that opens up as well. And then we have Wendy Kennedy, who's joining us as well. And she's, again, so elegant in her channel and her transmission of the Plating Collective and so much more. But again, so precise. And you can feel the emanation from her heart of what she's sharing for the benefit of anyone who will listen. Um, so it's extraordinary,
Yes.
extraordinary what's coming through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that difference and the cohesiveness between everyone is really profound. And so yeah, so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much coming through. What I also wanted to share is that what I feel the community building up that are joining us on this particular journey. Um, Again, it just feels in such alignment. Again, people that are reaching out saying, I knew I needed to go. I've been waiting years. I've seen other retreats and I never got that was the right one. But when this one landed, it's like, I knew that was it. I know I have to go. Please receive, please accept my application, which is so sweet. I'm like, my God. And then people are asking, do I need to have any special gifts? Do I need to be able to channel or intuitive or be able to remote view? It's like the biggest gift that you have is this intention of heart and the willingness to be in a space and the mastery of your heart when you show up with us in these places in ceremony, but also in the curiosity of what's having a relationship with us there. We're really bringing the offering of who we are to these places, and we're meeting it in a place where I believe, because of that intention, that there's something that is waiting to unlock. It's only been waiting for the resonance in which to do so, because it just won't do it just because. Yeah, and it's just been so beautifully guided. So it's incredible how all this is unfolding. But it's incredible again how guided it has been. Um, what has the count? What has your channel been sharing with you? What has Arion been saying about this particular journey, or have they?
So part of the what actually kind of really drew, like congealed some of that energy when you and I were talking, was a story that I've shared, on some posts and things before, but I want to share it here. It's part of it, but it's not the whole part. There's definitely a healing and emerging of the masculine, feminine, divine feminine within each of us. There, that story that I'll share in just a bit was a big part of some of the healing that was happening as I was going there. And this is a vision that happened back in 2005. But there's more to it than just that, because what Ariane has been talking about, which they prepped for about a year and a half before, and then they started talking about a year ago of the tri-wave brain flow. And essentially it's like represents that triangle, but it's not just left right hemisphere, it's subconscious to frontal lobe, which helps to amplify that higher mind so that we can connect into the infinite mind. And I feel like that is a big part of why we're being called to the pyramids at this time. And of course, we'll be going to other places besides the pyramids, but that's a big part of it. So there's a lot of healing that's happening all along the way, and there's a lot of activation that's happening all along the way. And of course, that's always the way of it. When we heal, when we release something, we naturally activate, and vice versa. It's just a matter of what stands out in the moment. So as they've been talking about that tri-wave brain flow previously, ever since I had that information with the return of the dove and turning back the clocks and everything that was happening as I was reading through that key from the Keys of Enoch, that tri-wave brain flow is part of what's activating and amplifying to another level in Egypt in September and October.
Wow. Wow. Again, so much is coming through. Um, y'all, Jamie's gonna take live questions. So if you want to ask personal questions, do raise your hand, type your questions into the chat box. We'll get into that in a little bit. And there's going to be a transmission coming through as well that Jamie mentioned to me earlier. So definitely going to want to hang out for that because it's I feel that everything that is coming through lately, Jamie, is just more of a refinement into something that's going to illuminate something bigger, but it's
Right.
refinement. And even and you've talked about this with me, that going from the eclipse portal that we left behind and that we're still weaving that it hasn't really closed, that we're actually waving into these other celestial events, and that those will really bookend something that, again, is part of what I refer to as that refinement process.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
what have you been experiencing during those refinements, or what are your clients seeing, or what are you witnessing um, as you look to the outside world that is indicative of these adjustments that are taking place?
Right. So the thing that I have noticed is the the moments of stillness and the moments of the quiet, the inner becoming the focus are very amplified.
Mhm.
And in some ways, they are more rarefied or even sometimes harder to reach. Like we've had to, for quite a while now, find different ways of getting into that stillness and working with the collective energies for those of us that are constantly sensitive to those, working with those in a very different way, because since 2020, and it's very amplified now as well, it the collective energy has been going through a lot of purging and a lot of transformation. So the intensity of the stillness and reaching that has created almost like a strengthening of our physical and our energetic bodies. So that part has been really interesting. The building those new muscles, and then that energy being so amplified and powerful when you do have that stillness, and finding that consistently, even though it often is feeling like it's a moment here, it's gone, it's a moment here, it's gone. That's part of that change process. It's like turning a season where it's not just all of a sudden winter, it's back and forth for a bit, and then eventually the season turns over. So that's one thing that I've been noticing, is that working with the collective energies in a different way, and then that stillness being so amplified, and that power that comes along with it.
Mhm. What do you think this has to do with the resurrection energies that you're feeling there as well?
So to me, it feels like that's what turning back the clocks is, where we tend to think of um, like it's a new birth, but in essence, it is like resurrection. It's a rebirth of what we've always been, and so the activations that are occurring and the things that are releasing and the energies that are shifting, that sometimes it's through that spin, like the air rating of the earth, the change in the movement, that what's occurring is the the ripe conditions so that that fullness can be more consistent, that it doesn't take the effort or the separation that it sometimes has had to take in these times of getting used to these new energetic flows. So that to me is the turning back the clocks to the time that that was embodied within our physicality. So it's really a kind of a metamorphosis time, actually, and so potent right now in everything that we're experiencing.
For me, it's a calling us up really forward into really an authority that we've been reclaiming. And for me, that's part of the resurrection as well. Again, we lived in such a place where we've put the decision making in the hands of others and let them govern for us in different ways, whether it's government, parental relationship, jobs, it's in so many different aspects. And for me, the energy that's flowing through for Egypt is really calling forward the kings and the queenships and the priests as well, bringing together church and state within ourselves and that authority, and bringing it back into alignment, into action that's not only going to sustain us in our individuality and our self-love, but what are we doing with that self-love? What do we expand? What is the purpose of that? And it's to serve something bigger than ourselves, because we are meant to be here as stewards for humanity and for our fellow human beings. So
Yes, beautifully said.
yeah, it's a profound initiation that we're going through individually, we're going through as a collective, and there's going to be points of realignment and refinement, and some of them may not feel so comfortable. But the beautiful place is that because of what is unfolding through these nodal points, it's really grounding us into an awareness that for us to prosper in the way that we truly want to prosper, that we're going to go through these growth phases. We're popping through those phases, but they're not meaningless. They have purpose. We're advancing and expanding, and um, we can have a different interpretation of going from being victimized because of something to really realizing that we're being empowered because of it. And the shift that creates, again, for ourselves as individuals, again, bringing us back to our authority. It's profound. It's, again, we're shifting tremendously. We may not be aware of it, but it's all been like leading up. Or some of y'all may be aware of what's been shifting, but there's more to come. I think in the next few years, we're really going to realize the authority that we truly have. And there's going to be circumstances that are going to call us to step up into that authority. And how wonderful, because it's time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing what's coming through.
Mhm.
James, should we get into the transmission, or should we share a little bit about the trip first? Should we get everybody over to the
Um,
website?
I want to share a little bit about the trip first, because I think some of the story will trigger some things
Mm.
and activate some things, and then it'll be perfect to go a little deeper into a transmission.
Well, let's
And
go.
yeah,
Let's say,
so I'm sorry.
I'll say let's go into the site also, and then I want you to guide this also. But everybody, the link for the website is, and for to find out more about this excursion that Jamie and I co-founded, co-created, and are being guided to. The links in the chat box. Chris or April, if you either one of y'all can put it in the chat box, please. And again, y'all can find it on beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Egypt and get to that same page. And yeah, Jamie, after you, please.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the origin story that we were talking about at when we were meeting for brunch.
Please.
And so back in 2005, I had a really profound vision where suddenly I was high above a temple, and I was feeling and hearing and seeing all of these women running and screaming in different directions, and I could see them being attacked. And as I was observing that, I knew that this was in Egypt, but I knew that this was also happening all over the world. Not necessarily right at that moment or in the exact same way, but I knew that what I was witnessing was a shift into the negative patriarchy, the domination and control, and that kind of energy. So as I was watching that, I was having that deep experience and that sorrow of the massacre that I was watching. But I also knew that even at that time, and throughout time, there would be pockets, whether it was a community, a tribe, a family, or an individual, or some individuals, some different pockets of people that would hold the energy of the balanced divine masculine and feminine. And there was a lot of other visions that were happening around that time, especially in 2005. But that was one that really stood out because I knew that that was a profound shift. And I knew that it was going to return to balance over time. And we are in that time. And sometimes it's back and forth like a pendulum swings, but we're in the time of embodying that within ourselves and honoring that energetic flow that is the core of creation, which is the divine masculine represents the electric or the direct, the outward action, and the divine feminine represents the magnetic, the encompassing, the holding, the nurturing, and all of that creates through time. So that was a really profound experience. But when I went to Egypt, I wasn't necessarily, I didn't know where it was that happened. And there's so many temples there that I didn't even get to see. So I had no idea if some of them aren't even excavated. So I had no idea if I would even see it. But when we went to the Isis temple at Philae, I still had no idea, but there were sickly cats on the island. And I was stepping through this temple, and they were very skittish, but this cat was actually walking up to people and giving them cat kisses, how they rub on you. And I love cats. So I was walking and I just let my hand be down as the cat was coming by and kissing my leg. And I just let the cat walk past my hand. But now I was looking forward, and the cat then attacked my hand. And I have cats, so I know, don't pull your hand back. That's even worse. So I just got really still. And then the cat eventually let go. It really wasn't that long, but I was now bleeding. So I went to sit down and run some water from my water bottle over my hand. And I was just sitting there. I could see the blood flowing on the ground. It wasn't bad. But when I stood up to leave and I turned around for one last look, it all came rushing back. That was the place where I had been watching the massacre in that 2005 vision. And the cat had opened that wound. So that was a really deep experience from having that vision in 2005 to experiencing that there. Because when I was there, and this happens in the temples anyway, but when I was there, it's a moved temple. They bring the rocks to where the new location is. So you can tell the energy is a little different, but there's still energy there. And there was a place that's not even finished. It's not, they didn't put anything else there, but I knew what was back there in the original temple, and that was called the honeycombs, where all the women lived. And so that those kinds of experiences were really interesting, but it was the depth of that recognition of being in the energy where that massacre occurred. And then I happened to talk to someone on the trip, and she had a similar experience where a cat had attacked her. And I believe it was Meg. Wasn't it Meg? Or I don't think it was Wendy. I think it was Meg that had been at that same temple and also had a cat attack her.
Yeah.
So reopening those wounds so that energy could flow. And healing that is part of what this trip is about, continuing to integrate that wholeness. And that is what the overall energies of this year are, according to Ariane, the Lyran Council of Time, is wholeness, that we are coming back into our wholeness. So that's a big part of that impetus for that. But that keys of Enoch from the Return of the Dove key, having that confirmation of the triangle and the Merkaba and that rainbow triangle that comes down over the body, that's very much connected into that tri-wave brain flow and some of the activations that will occur there as well, so that we can really house that heart-mind connection and that connection into the infinite mind. So Egypt holds some really special energies for us that, just like you were saying earlier, we can access it remotely. We can access it when we're there and really anchor that DNA connection with the physical earth. But the power that's there for us to heal and to activate is really profound.
Oh, it's tremendously profound. And I remember when you finished sharing that story when we were at brunch, it's like, I just paused for a second. It's like, that's not done. We have to go there together.
Mhm.
To go there together to complete that.
Yep.
And I knew it's like lightning hit. It's like it was planted and it was going to grow. There was just no question about it in my awareness when you shared that. So it was just, again, just so profound what happens. And what's also, again, with the resurrection energies, you had an amazing experience in Abydos, which is the Osiris temple. And Osiris was the one that, they cut him up into multiple pieces and scattered him all over the place because he was so powerful. They didn't want that power to be able to regenerate. And again, coming back into resurrection and wholeness and going to those temples, I feel profoundly that something is activating there as well. I don't know what it is. I'm not typically one's like, oh my God, I got to go collect my key or my code from a cave or a temple or whatever. But for me, it's undeniable right now that it is beckoning some of us to go there. And a lot of people are traveling to Egypt, but it's beckoning this group to go there. And the inspiration of documenting our journey and sharing that in mass media was something that just lit when we started talking about the potential of why we were doing this, because it's one thing to go to activate within ourselves. And you're a leader in your community and it's growing. There's more. No, let me take that back. You're a leader in the consciousness for all of humanity, as are the rest of the luminaries that are coming on the trip and people who are joining us and y'all listening here as well. And again, for me, it's a clarion call that we step into that empowerment that's been given to us, the consciousness, not from a place obviously where it's egoic, but an understanding of the capacity that we have of serving each other and of giving from what we have and of creating and just the support and the prosperity that wants to come through that is really here. Yes, because it wants to support us at an individual level, but that just feeds into the serving of a bigger collective and the legacy that we're leaving and the benefits for future generations and also the healing of the ancestry all simultaneously.
Yeah. To put that information into the fields of earth that we're all within.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
Jill, you're asking about the political climate and stuff going on. Great question. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Um, should we pull up the site and share it with everybody?
Yes. Oh, it's so
So
beautiful.
I'm going to pull up. I'm going to share my screen. The links in the chat box, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Egypt. But I'll share my screen here as well. I had a lot of fun creating this. Jamie was epic, and the copy that she wrote just anchoring so much of this in. Um, let's start. Okay, so the dates are, y'all, we're beginning and meeting in Cairo on September 25th, 2024. And we're going to be guiding through and we're going to actually be in Giza for the solar eclipse. It's October 6th, right, Jamie?
Um, I think we're in Karnak during the
Is
eclipse.
it,
It's
is it
October
Karnak?
2nd.
It's October
Hmm.
2nd. Yeah, I'm getting my dates all wrong. So we're in Karnak, which is an amazing temple, but we're navigating again that eclipse ride. And I love it if you share why awakening Zep Tepy, and if you can define
Mhm.
it for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Zep Tepy has many different meanings. Its technical meaning is first time or first awareness, the beginning, first ones. And for me, it holds a connection into our knowingness, our connection with the omniscience. And to me, it represents that connection in with our own beginnings. And there's also an awareness and energies that come along with that. It has such a guardianship and a a, a memory within each of us because it's within our DNA. It's written within our bodies. It's written within the earth body. It's held within the stones. And that's the thing that's the reason why Egypt and so many of these sacred sites have such a special meaning for us because the stone speaks to us not only in its grandeur but in its silence and the depth that's there. So this is all about awakening our deep akashic memories of the origins that we are, and that's what Zep Tepy is.
Mhm. And with the Akashic records, if you will, when I spoke to both Wendy and Megan, I know they shared it with you also when we were in the group call, but when I talked to them individually about this particular journey, I was inviting them in. They both shared that they each had a profound experience tapping into the Akashic records underneath the Sphinx, which we'll have private access to. When we go to, we'll be at the paw of the Sphinx and we'll see what it activates around there, but each of their individual experiences there before left such an impact. Meg was there last year, and I think Wendy was there maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer. But what they bring to that, and just again, their excitement to go deeper into that, um, is profound. And again, we are awakening, and we're we're convening with energies that are powerful that we're ready to be with. And this is what that means to me also. So y'all, we get into the mission and resurrecting eternal Egypt, and I'll let y'all read that because it is a transmission. Um, it just truly is. But we'll get into some of the itinerary, and we'll scroll through the side here. And so when we arrive the first day, we're all going to gather in Cairo, and it's just be good to ground into each other. We'll have a couple of Zooms call, or at least one Zoom call, at least before, to get that cohesion in the field. And we don't have to go through all this. We'll highlight some of it. Um, but landing in that city, it's for me, it feels like home every time. Both times that I've landed, I can say every time. It feels so familiar. And Jamie was asking about the safety in Egypt and what's happening with the war. From my perspective and my awareness, the second time I traveled to Egypt, I went with a huge group and we broke down into smaller groups. But even that, I knew I had to break out on my own. So I broke off with another person in Luxor and we spent 6 days by ourselves, checked into our own hotels, went to different temples by ourselves. It was just beautifully easy to navigate, and the people were so friendly. And, we have to be aware also that, Egypt's income is mostly generated from tourism. So that they're going to make sure that we are taken care of and being taken care of properly. Um, what would you have to say about that, Jamie? Because I don't know if I want to tap into, I can get into
Yes.
energies of the Middle East, but I don't find it relevant to this trip.
Right, right. It's so funny because my logical mind would want to say, "Oh my gosh, that's so close. I have to be concerned." And
Mhm.
obviously everyone needs to follow their heart, but it it feels like there's shifts and things and trauma that is going on that's surfacing things, but it's also feels so removed from this. And I actually had a friend that was there when it started, and in Egypt at the temples. And it feels that is definitely far away when you're there. That's what it feels like. So the thing that I experienced when I was there, and I was there in 2019. So while it wasn't the exact same climate, this is something that has been at the fore of what they concern themselves with so much. And there's security the whole way. There's guards on the bus. There's guards at the temples, at the hotels. There's police escorts everywhere that you go. And it would be, and you're at a temple and there's someone with like a machine gun kind of thing. And it would feel like, ooh, that's so obtrusive. And it just feels like war or something. But actually, what it feels like there is protection. And they are so, the people at the temples and at the hotels and everywhere, they are so kind and so supportive. I was really surprised. In fact, I remember a friend and I had walked off and I was like, I feel like this guy's kind of following us. And we were in a large crowd. I didn't feel unsafe, but I was like, that's just so weird. And it turned out to be a guard from the other bus that I wasn't used to seeing all the time. And that's how careful they were. They were just always nurturing and supporting. It was so, to me, it feels like everything that's going on with the collective is, it's harrowing and so hard to feel into as a sensitive. And yet there are things that are occurring that have to shift some of this old energy. And within Egypt, there's such a care for our safety and security that still I'm always careful, but I haven't been feeling any kind of resistance to that. And I didn't feel it when I was there before either. I just felt so nurtured.
Yeah. And I've had two very dear friends who, one's an ex-girlfriend of mine, one of the sweetest people I know. She's absolutely amazing. She moved to Egypt. She's living there now. She's been there for over a year and a half and absolutely loves it. And she's there with a couple of other girlfriends that are cohabitating and they travel in and out of the country. But she says that's home for her. And she's, again, been all over the world. She absolutely loves it. Then I had another dear friend who she lived in Egypt for about 2.5 years. She came back to the States finally, but she loved her time there. She wouldn't have traded it for the world. So, and again, these are single women that were traveling out there, traveling with other women, feeling really welcomed in that particular culture. So, that's been our experience. That's been experiences from people that I've been close with. And we, oh, go ahead.
Stuart was just there.
Yeah.
Stuart was just there in April. And he was like, yeah, it's as if nothing is different, except there's a little less tourists.
Yeah, exactly.
Mainly from America, there's less tourists.
Less American tourists, that's right. So again, it's wonderful. We could go through the whole itinerary, Jamie, but let's talk about some of the major sites because again, private access in the King's Chamber and in the pyramid, private access in at the Isis Temple in Philae, private access at the Paw of the Sphinx, and did we confirm Abydos for private access also?
Yes, at the Osirian.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes, I'm so excited about that. I wasn't able to go down in there the last time. And so we have a private tour down into that area. And Stuart has had a dream about that area, as well as when we were talking about the Sphinx. There's just going to be huge activations happening that whole time. We're doing the Sphinx and the pyramids right around the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot happening, y'all. Y'all can go through the dates. I don't want to take up a lot of time because I want to make sure that we get to Q&A and to get to the transmission. But join us, fill out the application. We're very transparent about pricing, and it has to be that way. And it's priced this way also because we are being called to be of service. So we've also invited a film crew to come with us. Hollywood film crew, like a high-grade professional, because the call was really to share our experience with as many people as possible after the experience. So we're to anchor there. We're really leading kind of the energetic impact and receptivity that we as a collective are receiving there, but it's meant to be shared on a larger scale. So my vision is that this is going to land somewhere like Apple TV, HBO, Showtime, Netflix, Amazon. I keep hearing HBO, but we'll see what happens. But we're working towards that. We're working towards really creating something where we can be beacons and stewards for embodying an activation that we receive, disseminate it to normalize it for other people, and that can be sprouted or maybe even completely spontaneously awakened within them. Um, and also to be aware of the stewardship that we hold and the responsibility for taking care of not just each other, but of these sites as well as these places on Earth that have supported us and our ancestors for thousands of years. And then what do we do to pay it forward? How do we show up to preserve and to share a profound wisdom that is being made available to all of us? So it's amazing what's coming through and the support that comes through again, September 25th through October the 8th, y'all. And y'all apply, fill out the application if you're even remotely interested. And either I or one of us will get on a call with you, and we'll talk it through. And if it's appropriate, open up an invitation to you, which excites me. We're limiting the amount of people that we're taking, so it's not going to be 100 people in the group. We wanted to keep it intimate and really in a contained intention. And again, for me, it's about asking whoever's joining us again to show up in our majesty and unity consciousness, because we're really there to contribute something. And in that humility, we show up for everybody. And then what we will receive, we'll let whatever's choosing to give to us. But I can again feel how profound it is, and that we truly are showing something that's ready to receive us and invite us into what else is possible than perhaps we may even imagine is possible. How does that come up for you, Jamye?
So you mean the receiving and
Yeah,
giving of that
right.
experience?
Mhm.
Yeah. So how that comes up for me is like soaking in that energy, not just soaking it in like a sponge, but like being in it and really embracing it. That there's always that exchange, the give and the receive, and just being there in that physical representation of the capability that's so natural to us is just so profound. And so showing up with that reverence and that knowing that even if you're not getting something in the moment, mentally or something, you're not having a psychic flash or something, that there's
Mhm.
such profundity going on there. You're stepping where our ancient forefathers, forebearers have been, our foremothers. So it's just really unique and amazing, just profound.
It is unique. It's like I feel into, and well, I will toot our own horn, but it's not from an egoic place. I just feel what's building up in this particular gathering for this particular journey, and I have not felt anything like this anywhere else. I just haven't. It's quite extraordinary. Um, and I keep receiving the guidance, keep sharing that, keep sharing that, keep sharing that, because it's truth. So I love that. Yeah, I'm going to present the luminary guides and then we'll hop off the pages as an invitation. But again, it's, you know me, most of y'all, you do now anyway. You can read more about Jamye here. And of course, everything she's sharing here is profound. The amazing Stuart Pierce is coming, and Stuart will be on the show in August. If you're not familiar with Stuart, you'll get to know him then. But I highly encourage you to look him up also. He's an amazing guide, a fantastic facilitator. He's so connected. He's so poetic. Um, and he's pretty amazing. I mean, he's worked with Marianne Williamson, he worked with Princess Diana, he's working with King Charles now. The UN calls him into areas of conflict to bring peace. What I've heard about his vocal alchemies, not just from him, but people who've gone on tours with him in Egypt, the awakening experiences that they've had as he's toned in the King's Chamber or in the King's Valley, some of those tombs, it was life altering for some people. And it makes sense. So he's profound. Of course, Meg Benedicte, who's again, she works with Archangel Metatron in the Merkaba and just really clearing out through quantum um, access, really clearing out what doesn't serve, what can't be in the field anymore, and really elevating us to creating from that higher octave of that golden triangle, if you will. And of course, Wendy Kennedy, who's just an extraordinary intuitive channel. And for any of the luminaries, read about them, check them out on YouTube. I it's I respect each and every one of them immensely, and it's the reason that we're all creating this together. So it's wonderful here. So is it calling you? Apply. There's pictures of Egypt. There's so much more that we can share on there. Is there anything else you want to share about this before I end this page, Jamie?
No, no, I think I'm so glad you went through the luminaries because I feel so honored to be going with all of these
Yeah.
luminaries. Just, wow, what an energy together. Very exciting.
And it's going to be fun. We
Mhm.
laugh also together pretty well. Um, Amazing. Jamie, I'd like to open up to some Q&A if you're okay with that before we get into
Sure.
the mission. So I'm going to start promoting some of y'all to panelists here to have your hands raised. And if you're interested in asking your question live, raise your hand and we'll try to get to some great Q&A here. Okay, let's see here. Everybody started popping up. How about we go with Jill? Let's go with you first. Welcome to the call.
Oh,
Let's get you to unmute your microphone. Yeah.
there you are. Now we hear.
Oh, John and Jamie, so wonderful to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Joining you.
You are joining us.
I
Yes.
am joining you. And the question that came to mind was, is there anything that comes through you that would be more than I already know that I need to do to prepare?
Mm. So, as you ask that, I feel energy through the throat channels down into the heart. So there's some energy that wants to move through there so that you can be freer to receive when you're there. And then what's going to occur is this embodied empowerment that really shifts the third chakra because of that. So if there's anything that comes up for you, maybe spending some time occasionally, sometimes things need to ripen a bit, and it doesn't have to be something traumatic or it doesn't have to be tears or anything like that. But there's something that wants to release. It could even be some toning and things that actually moves the energy through that channel. But that heart opening will be even more so that when you're there, you're receiving more freely.
Thank you. Perfect.
Nice.
I'm so excited you're coming, Jill. Thank you so much.
Me too.
Yes. Amazing. And thank you for being on the call today.
You're welcome.
All right, love. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue. Wendy, welcome to the call. If you can unmute your microphone, please. Love to hear your question.
Hi there. Sorry, for some reason it's not letting me start my video.
No worries.
But yeah, I had just been interested in I recently learned like my soul family is angelic Arcturian, and I was wondering if there's any way to connect in with my soul family because I don't really know anything about that.
Mm. So when you were talking about that, I was seeing feet on the ground and almost like padding on the ground, that they want you outside and quiet so that
Mm.
transmitting can flow more easily. And doesn't have to be all the time, but that, it can happen in other ways as well. But that physically being outside is, it's opening up that flow so that you can then get the messages and the consciousness along with it. But you can never be not connected to them. So that's the good news. And then for the angelics and the Arcturians, very focused on healing. That angelic energy is so nurturing and supportive, and it is embedded within those that are very called to helping others, to support and teach and nurture and things like that. And then that Arcturian energy is, they are they are also profound healers. They work a lot with sound. They are helping us to heal our mental and emotional on the human level so that we are more prepared for the movement forward. So that's good companions there, soul family.
Okay. So is there anything like a statement or a mantra or anything I can use to call in and like when I want to ask a question or something like that?
So what I heard was, I want to discover who I am.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, cuz I I feel pretty lost. So that's just been hard for me because I feel like I got thrown here on Earth School and like I lost my wings and it's just like, okay, you're on your own, you figure it out. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have that constant support, and sometimes we expect it to be a little more direct, like turn left, now turn right. But
Yes.
it's subtle, and that statement of I want to discover who I am uh, opens you up to receive that support more.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Nice.
That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank
But-
you.
And I would also recommend using a statement that I am supported.
Mhm.
Okay.
I am open to receive support, because I just want to address when you said that you were just thrown here, and I know it may be difficult to receive, but I hope that it's not, that you wouldn't just be thrown here, that those that love you so dearly and hold you in such reverence would never just dispose of you here and leave you here. The support does exist, and you're discovering more of who you are and your capacity. And if you allow those mantras to guide you and their assistance, their support from where they're showing up for you now, to
Right.
guide you, to ease your heart, to attune your nervous system, and just like, I've got this. It's okay. I'm equipped. I do have support. It'll take you a long way, because if we keep feeding, I'm not supported, I'm not supported, we're in a times where we're creating our realities with our spoken word very profoundly. And
Right.
so I want to invite you to choose the reality that you'd rather be in, even if it takes a little bit of practice, even if it takes a little bit, I don't believe it, but I'm going to say it anyway, to get into the habit of attuning into and believing that which you're receiving is true, that there is love for you, and that
Well,
there's something great here for you, and that you're something great for it as well.
thank you, John. I appreciate that. One of the things when I was learning about the Arcturians, the lady that I was working with, she was an Akashic record reader, and she was kind of like the way she described the Arcturians was kind of like, they take a licking and keep on ticking. They're pretty strong. They choose to come here to learn the hard lessons, but you can take it kind of a thing. But she said that's kind of balanced out by the angelic side of me because she said, the angelic side is not used to this energy here at all. They just want to flee the body, and they kind of have to like, why do I have to deal with all this? So it's just been interesting. And I don't know. I think I've got it in my head that like I'm here to suffer. I'm here to go through hard lessons, and it's spiritual growth, and I understand that, but sometimes it's just so damn overwhelming. I can't function every day. I'm just so overwhelmed, and I don't know how to get out of that except to, just like breathe, meditate, try to root myself.
That makes even more sense with being outside, to really let the earth support you with that physicality of that as well, so that the overwhelm can't stay.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're bringing this up, Wendy, and I'm going to go on to the next caller here in a second. But I really appreciate you mentioning this, because we are going through periods of where we're being stretched in what we believe our capacities are. I'm certainly going through bouts of it. I know that something is expanding, and it's taking form, if you will, in some of that resurrection energy. So I would encourage you, compassion for self, and just allow the grace of the support that you're receiving to help to guide you. And faith is a big key right now. And I know it can be hard when you're suffering for so long and it's painful and you feel alone and isolated, but using those tools, again, using the advice that Jamie's giving, and again, your awareness to even ask the question means that you're open to the other side of it. So I see that in you, and I see the other side for it in you as well. Keep choosing it. Okay.
Thank you so much, John and Jamie. Appreciate your input.
All right, Wendy. Yes, of course. I love Carol wrote in. Carol wrote, I lived in Egypt for 3 years and had zero trouble with safety. And again, during the 2013, 2014 Israeli conflict. And then she wrote about how amazing it is and how she encourages everybody to attend. You must go. So thank you, Carol, for sharing that. If you want to join us, join us. It'd be amazing to have you there. All right, let's continue. Let's go to Cynthia now. Hi, Cynthia. And Jill, Linda, I'm going to get to you in a second. So stay on here.
Hello.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hello.
How are you?
Happy
Good.
to see you. What's your question, Cynthia? And welcome.
My question is, I feel more comfortable speaking light language than I do English. And I was wondering too, do you communicate with lights?
With lights?
Yes.
And what technically do you mean by that?
Okay, I personally communicate with lights. I will see different visions come through the lights, and they'll talk to me through different lights. Like, I'll see all sorts of images this project out and just be talking to me all the time. And I'll be busy doing something, and I feel like I'm going in another dimension, and then I'm talking to doing something else. I'm just
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So my question is, but from what I'm picking up is that there's different soul families have different soul light language and different tones that we all speak.
Yeah. Yeah, it's varied. And we will have light language that is more attuned to our own energy and our soul family energy, or our soul lineage. And sometimes I find that people will mix some of that together, meaning they are part angelic, part Arcturian. So there can be a different flow because of the uniqueness of all of our soul heritage. And then other times we're connecting with very specific energies or groups that have different languages. So you tune into something that is a communication form for different soul families, different species, different timelines. So absolutely, it can vary, and then you'll recognize similarities in them, or you'll recognize, just like John was saying, when I first heard your light language, could understand it. It was this deep knowing of what was occurring because it was familiar to him. So yeah, you're tapping into certain soul families and resonances that are familiar to you, and then some that aren't. But we have that capability to communicate anyway. Nice.
Can I give you a message from my guides to you?
Sure.
And I can transmute it into English as well too. Okay. Kaia manahahi hihiaka tokoho hihan namahia namahia tokohosha kahahi hihio monanana ia shihihio kohoma anana mahihiana kaia shokoto kohoyana. The light that is within your heart that moves, the stillness of breath moves in tune, in tunes, in variety, and of the season. It holds the wisdom within your heart to reason, to see and be in light of what you are. Thank you for the graciousness of your heart.
Beautiful. Thank you
for sharing. What a gift.
Thank you.
Yes. Keep
Nice.
up. Keep sharing, please. Amazing.
Yes.
Jamie,
Thank you, Cynthia.
we have to get into the transmission. Linda said I was going to take your call, so let's take your call and we'll get into the transmission right afterwards.
Hi.
Hello,
Nice
Linda.
To talk to you. Yeah, I've gone through such trauma in the last month. It's been unreal. But I'm trying to rise above that and trying to work more with sound healing. And do you have any help with that?
So are you using crystal balls? Or are you just
No, I'm
toning, a
using
combination?
tuning
Nice.
forks.
Excellent. Excellent. And one, I would recommend being very physical with it. So I'm sure you're working the tuning forks around different places of your body. That's the first thing I'm
Yes.
being shown. And
Yes.
the other thing I'm being shown is vocalize and move. That will help move that energy. So even if it's toning, it doesn't sound pretty, whatever, doesn't have to be perfect like that, but just letting that vibration come from you will continue to support you with that movement.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, blessings, Linda.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad you're working through the intensity. It's definitely intense
It was
times.
bad. It was very
Yeah.
bad. So thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
John. Thank you,
You're
Jamie.
very welcome. Yeah, good to see you. All right, y'all, we're going to get into the transmission here in a second. And before we do, y'all, the link, if you're interested in joining us in Egypt or finding out more, the link's in the chat box. Check out the website if you're ready to apply. Fill out an application and we'll get back to you fairly quickly. And if it's in alignment with you and you're sincere about wanting to join us, it would be wonderful. As again, that alignment takes place as we talk with one another and decide that yes, we want to do this together. So I'm excited about the applications that come in. And again, welcome all of you to submit so that we can see what we can create together. So again, the link's in the chat box, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Egypt will take you there as well. And with that, Jamie, can we start the transmission?
Absolutely. So even when we had started this, we booked this call, I knew that I was being called to do a transmission that is connecting us into another layer, which is continually happening for us, another layer of our ancient power, our natural power, our divine birthright, our own Zep Tepy. And what I was feeling strongly as the call was getting closer was a lot going on with the throat. And this feels very specific, like there's pinpoints is not the right word, but concentrated energies that are wanting to free up from the throat so that the back of the throat can expand its flow. So as always with crystalline soul healing and light language, your higher self is releasing and activating in a way that's perfect for you. But I wanted to share some of what I was getting ahead of the call, and I'll share after the transmission as well.
Beautiful.
So take a nice relaxing breath. as your higher self releases and activates in a way that's perfect for you to help you open and embody the depth and expanse of the powerful divine being that you are. Zamost aruka deerut uk urmet etiarand tamor akaram anshairut ursal kranat ansuch amdurk kaira krendet im kunda suncharik I kratat im. Samoshtaru aru ham kur kramat an such urt ut unum kramahat shanat utsum janok arnda krandat im dam aruk hand iklel kurat andit anna cha sumkaidetia zamchut akream hat inend akremat ansacharat ua akranat him krandat ua sumchai Stamo sanchuruk and kem okrurat tanti im mram hakurat akral ranan nam such okrurat in krenet hem aned anu urma hebram at such and hakrayat kani. Karana. Som shaurat hand ilerot or tam hormak tandat krenat hans charat dom akrianat som sharak rondot u kret ani hiim branat iet such orkral renehet ia sachaura som ka kirat kom kra som chairid hin kra kwa som sai. Shama varaptana tot ua hakreat okrormat nan sacharat unum premak ancharakrel herneat hatat sam hapram ka sum chairakra kal herkrantata. Brahmatadit san sharikrandat al ranan dam akranat im such urkot akrem brahmakriandat an neanat andi krelernea sunshine. Good. Take another relaxing breath. Good. Nice. Beautiful. Such a shift in the energies. So in the beginning, there was this strong masculine energy that was doing a lot of movement to open up and free that space. There was a time where it was like things releasing very physically from the mouth. Then it shifted to more of a feminine, nurturing feeling energy. And during that one, I was feeling like there was a lot of being able to hold more of your own energy. So that was really interesting. And then shifted again, and there was a lot of activation happening all around the throat. And there was a time where my mouth opened and it felt like breathing in the cosmos. That we have that power within our breath, within our communication, our expression. So those were some of the things that stood out for me.
Wow, it's so impressive. I could feel the masculine and the feminine. I can feel the calling up, that authority kind of like coming through. It was fascinating so much more. And trying not to interpret and just receiving, because I just know how potent these transmissions are from you. Y'all, if anything, check out Jamie's website, go to her YouTube page, receive her monthly transmissions. They're amazing, beautiful activations and communities. Just again, the honor and respect I have for Jamie's work is tremendous. It's like of all the speakers on BTO, I hold her way up high that I've ever been on. And that's indicative of this call that's very sacred to me, that it would have to be in sacred communion with others to would hold that space as well. And so honored to be able to be invited by the guides that brought us together to journey with Jamye in this way. So again, dive into anything that's Jamye Price. And if you're called to join us in Egypt, it would be an honor to have a conversation with you about it as well. And hopefully the honor of all being us together, and you'll get to experience this amazing women in person. Thank you for what you do, Jamye. Thank you for the transmission. Thank you for co-creating this calling with me and bringing it to life. It's such a miracle. And again, for everybody on the call, thank you all for being on here. Thank you for your light. Thank you for your love. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Even if you think that you were thrown down here, thank you for being here. So grateful to each and every one of you. And with that, I wish each and every one of you a fantastic evening. I look forward to seeing you in the next call, and blessings to everyone. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.